to IT. We will start running few sessions around Azure AKS. As you might be aware of, the current trends all around Kubernetes and Docker. So we will start doing some AKS, Azure Kubernetes services, and we will explore what options Microsoft they offer us and what are the limitations and what deployment methods are available. So we will start with the portal first, and then we will deviate from the portal toward pipeline, CI/CD using Azure DevOps or Jenkins or Puppet or any others. But let's start with seeing what is available. So this is my Azure subscription. I'm just going to go and show you, to start with, create a new resource. If I just type AKS here, you can see what options we have. Okay, AKS base image. We have the container services, which what I'm after, and we'll see the third-party sort of integration. We go the Arc enabled Kubernetes, and then we go the Kubernetes services. Let's start with the base image. We'll have a look what is it exactly. Okay, so AKS base image. This basically will create for me Ubuntu LTS, if you want to call it VM, and you can see the image here listed and the plan itself. So this is the plan, which will cover basically tell you what version you will be using, and distribution July 2020 with AKS Ubuntu GPU, and you can see the other information around the image itself. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop down list and see any other earlier release. If you fancy something different, you will see them here, but you can see here like most of these images are sort of like, if you look at the first part of it, it's AKS Ubuntu GPU to start with, and then it will tell you Gen 1, Gen 2, or LTS, and then the version 18.04 or 16. So I'm going to go with the latest one, and I'm going to go with the LTS part of it, the GUI, and then they're going to say like create for me. Again, it seems like there's something wrong with this image. There we go. So let's go back again. AKS image. Let's restart with another image. I'm not sure what's wrong with this one. We can investigate, could be released to my subscription. Create that one. Again, seems something wrong. I don't know, is it Microsoft or us? What about earlier release? Create an image. Yes, I'm sure I've got internet connection. Let me just make sure. Yeah, we got internet connection. So maybe it's the plan. Let's just go select it. Okay, let's just see what plan you have. And okay, so we'll give it last try, and it seems something wrong. So we cannot use the base image. We'll talk about that one later on. We'll have a look why we cannot use it. Is it my subscription? And we'll come back to it. So let's go back to new again. Type AKS. We're not going to do base image now. Let me see what other options I have. The most popular one is the Kubernetes one. So you can see these are the options are available for us. Let me just drag this a little bit up. Again, I think it's my internet maybe a bit slow. I'm tethering with the phone, but you can see the image is sort of like today is not functioning. We go other types. The most common one I was referring to, you go the Kubernetes services, this one here, that one, or you go the Azure Arc. So let's restart with the Kubernetes services because we couldn't do the image, and then later on we will do one by one, and we'll see which one is the right one for your deployment, either using OpenShift, Azure Arc or Kubernetes itself. So I'm going to go for Kubernetes services, and then you can see similar to the previous one. You got the plan, description, what is it for. For this one, you can see it is for like, you know, it says like here, quickest path from 0 to AKS, or sorry, Kubernetes on Azure, yeah, with AKS benefits and all the fancy stuff from Microsoft and networking and any other stuff. So I'm just going to go with this one and say create Kubernetes services. Create. And then we go through the steps. Here we go, subscription. I don't have that one, the old subscription, my VS. Again, I don't have resource groups. I've deleted everything. You need to create your own RG. So RG stands for resource group. I'm just going to call it, I don't know, Kubernetes. You can have whatever you like, you know. Okay. Cluster. Let's use a cluster. So resource group Kubernetes cluster. Then later on when we do the others, we can differentiate between them. See which naming convention work for you. Same thing for my cluster. So this is the resource groups. The cluster itself, I'm just gonna call it this, and then the name will be already someone else is using it. Sorry. And then just go there. Okay. Kubernetes clusters. I would prefer to go down the route of lowercase. Let me just make sure. Avoiding all this. You can see here, the name can contain letters and numbers. Underscore must be unique for the resource group. So we are happy with this. We create RG, and then we're going to go through each one of these settings, you know, including the tagging. And at the end, we'll see how it looks like for us and how we can connect to it. So Kubernetes services. Next is the node pools. So I'm going to go down the route of it's by default at least you will need 3 nodes counts to start with. This is the minimum. You can have like a primary and secondary. You can see these are the virtual nodes, which will allow you to basically, you know, scale up, scale down later on. And if you have, like, for example, bursting with a load, then you can do that enable. So we will do them all, and then you can see the VM scale set. Okay. Let's just go down the route of just use agent pool primary to start with, and then we can go and customize later on. If I say enable virtual, and then that basically will create additional. You can see there. And just do that for us. By enabling the virtual node, that will allow us to deploy or burst out containers to node backed by Azure serverless containers. This can provide fast scaling, you know, beyond our defined cluster. Again, this is just a demo to show you how it looks like. But in reality, maybe let's leave it disabled for you, and then we can control it through these nodes. Maybe we will have multiple like cluster node with different pools. Like, for example, I can add another pool here, and this pool again, another 3 machines. I'm going to go down the route with Linux to start with. The size of the, and I would call it that one secondary pool, and I can choose a size, maybe something, I don't know. For this exercise, we're going to go down the route of something very basic, like this one, and then here we go. I've got my second pool or secondary pool. 3 I need, 3 against 3, in total will be 6. This is got virtual, and then if I say yes, you see this will happen. So I've got primary, I've got secondary, and there are basically, you can see that one has more spec than this. However, this is meant for the load later on. So at the moment, I'm just going to remove it. Let's remove it, and then we can come back to this later on, because we can always add them later on. Okay, so this is the default settings. We go for next, authentication. What shall we use? Service principal name, or we use system assigned managed identity? For this exercise today, we're going to do service principal. Okay, we can configure service principal, and later on we have to use that key vault, and we integrate it, and same thing apply for system manage identity. If I say configure service principal to start with, click here. I don't have an existing one. Look, I'm not aware, so I'm going to create a new one for me, and it's a default one. It's an empty subscription. So now I have service principal. Maybe you can have your own sort of like manage identity naming convention. Role-based access, yeah, let's go with this access. This module will allow us to assign very comprehensive, permission. And then we have if you just maximize a little bit here, we have the key vault part of it, okay? And then encryption is basically REST platform. Sometimes you want to use your own key. At the moment, I'm going to leave it with Microsoft. And later on, we do another more like videos and sessions. We will do different key and see how the behavior, how we manage the HSM on premise. So I'm leaving sort of like everything as default. I'm going to go to the networking. What about my networking? If I go basic, you see basic, we'll use DNS, which is a Kubernetes cluster service with DNS. And it's not private, it is public. We're going to start with public, and then I'll change it to private, and I'll show you what will look like. And then I'm not going to apply network policies. You see, these network policies will allow us to define rules, permissions between the ingress and egress traffic between the pod themselves within the cluster. Why you need to do this one? To improve the security and restriction, and only open the right port and the right traffic between my network. I can later on, again, we're going to do Calico, and we can do Azure, but I'm just going to go with the default. Same thing with my routing. I'm going to go down the route of application routing to no. Okay. If I do the default settings, I'm going to go down the route. Advanced, that will tell me what to specify. Again, we'll cover that one in different session. And I'll tell you what subnet, how they work, how we can create peering. So leave it as a default, which means Microsoft will create all of these for me behind the scenes, the subnets and the default ranges. Next, integration. What else do I need to integrate it with? You can see log analytics monitorings. I will leave it, and it will create for me log analytics workspace, so I can capture my traffic, activities around it. If you can look at the container reg, it says none, because in order for me to use that one, it says here, connect your cluster to Azure registry. It needs to, so that will enable you to create new registration. Okay, so go ahead, and then the tags, and then you can create your own tags and see, for example, what else you want to add to it. So next, and then that's it. We have the entire validation. If everything seems fine, that you will see the region for my cluster and everything around it. So trying to finalize and validate it. It takes a bit of time. It's passed because we went down the route of everything basically sort of like default basic. Yeah, we go the version itself, so sort of like the latest. Location, region, subscription, how many node, one, virtual node disabled, scale set enabled, and role-based access enabled, and that's all. Happy? Download a template for automation using ARM, like this. Okay? And then I can download it in case if I want to automate it later on. We can do this later on, but at the moment I'm just going to do this. And then, okay, we are happy with this. Let me just close this one. The template went there. And then go back to my cluster, close this one, and then say create. That should take a bit of time. However, it's depending on the image and what we have selected. I've selected everything basic, so you can see the deployment submitted. If I click here, that's supposed to take me to the logs, and it will show me the progress. And you can see it's starting one by one. And as I said, it will take a bit of time, especially like, for this one, I'm expecting like within less than 5 minutes. However, depend on the request within Microsoft. Bearing in mind, nothing to do with my machine here, because I'm working through the browser inside Microsoft through the portal. So there are no like dependency here on sort of like my internet connection or my machine or firewalls or whatever. Yeah. So you can see the basic first thing started is the workspace, and then starting the deployment. Let me see if I can pause and we come back later on, but it seems like it's getting faster now. Maybe this time of the day, less people are spending resources inside Azure. Okay, so we got the container. You can see the operation if you want to read exactly what's happening. Later on, you can download the settings. And let me just click here, show you what's going on. It says it's running, it's create and subscription, duration, tracking, and so on. Yeah, just in case you need to see what's going on behind the scenes at Microsoft side and what they are doing exactly, and just in case some information which I recommend to capture for like a reporting or like to see what's going on with your environment. This is the settings. If I go back, refresh, it says it created. However, it's just like trying to finalize what's going on, and soon, hopefully before 5 minutes to finish. And what else do we have here while we're waiting? You can see the input. That will tell you the variables you've specified, and all of these later on we can see we can customize. For this subscription I can do max 30 pods, network plugins, Kubernetes. And if I go back to my dashboard just to show you what's going on behind the scenes, at the moment there's nothing there. Only I got my BTC tenancy. If I refresh, I should start see all of these are showing up. I've got my Kubernetes cluster, load balancer, and maybe I do this is better if I do like this and all resources. Then I can see everything is showing up. This is my subscription now, my MSDN, and you can see the pools, the VNets, the containers, the basically anything with the US. This one I left it just to differentiate between my BTC tenant and the rest. You can see the resource groups, okay, and you can see the default one, and you can see the Kubernetes itself. It's going inside that resource group. So the rest of these ones, if I go back and show you, it's behaving a bit. Here we go, deployment finish, go to resource. It will take me to the Kubernetes cluster itself, which the same RG I created. I just want to start to explain to you what's going on. If I go to my RG, resource groups, you will see Microsoft created few for me. Here we go. This is my BTC. Default resource groups, resource group 1, 2, and in addition to the one I created. So I've got additional, you can see this central US. I didn't create this one. This is for network watching. Let's have a look what's inside it. The first one, you got the workspace, yeah? This is for log analytics, in case we do the monitoring, other stuff. Again, you can delete it, create it, and assign it later on. I can show you, but this is because we left it as a default. Okay, next one is this one here. It says the cluster for the pod themselves. You can see the AKA VNets, and you can see the load balancer, internal load balancer. I can see my scale set of my VMs, and I can see the agent pools running. Okay, and then public IPs, because it's public, it's not private. If it's a private, you don't see that here. You will see the only private ones. And then if I go back here, network watch for monitoring, nothing is there. In case if I want to do later on, because it's enabled networking and tracing. And then here's my cluster sitting here, and the cluster is the US. And here it is. We can walk through this cluster later on, but here we go. Just to keep it very short session. I've got my cluster subscription. I've got my nodes. Okay, and I've got my networking, you see, and then the integration, and these are all assigned by Microsoft themselves. Okay, that's all what I had for you for today. Next, I will just go through these settings for you and compare them again to the next type of deployment. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.